around the practice of tattooing with Mage'au Gray, one of our APT8 artists and a member of the Yumi Danis project, Ranu James, Nata Richards and Pai Ingram. Julia will be, as we're speaking, tattooing Dulcie Stewart with assistance from her children, Kama and Basa. So tattooing is something that or particularly Julia's practice was something that I first encountered while we were on Umbram as part of the Yumi Danis camp. Julia had very with lots of forethought, brought all of her materials along with her, and so as part of the project, really from the inception, we had that practice really embedded within this particular project. It is a practice that exists across the region. And Julia, I guess one of the first things I'd like to ask you to speak about is just about that, about the importance of it, and perhaps to begin with within your own culture, and then how important that is for you now.
It's important because, for me personally, it's because Papua New Guinea's, we have such a male-dominated society that reflects, I mean, it's today, that's what it is today. I mean, in the past, I think there was a much more balanced relationship. Women and men were equally strong in their own roles, not exactly the same, but it's a partnership, and our tattoos reflected that. So not having our tattoos means that when we no longer have our visual reminders for our men that we should be respected. So it's pretty much, that's kind of, there's so many things that our tattoos reflect for us personally. But I'll just take this moment to introduce Ranu, who's from Motu. She's Motuan, Gaba Gaba village, with her sister Paya, and Nata from Hula. And basically we're Central Province girls, women. Even though I'm still 10 on the inside. But, and so we embarked on this journey together, and I suppose I'll pass it on because it's not just my voice in this revival. What's the
so for us, our mother's not marked, but she carried her tattoos, or raba, she had them embedded in our lives. So they were on our t-shirts when she learnt to screen print. She screen printed tattoos when she did hobby text back in the 70s. And she hobby text tattoos when she learnt how to do ceramics. She drew our tattoos on the ceramics. When she made curtains, she put our tattoos on our curtains. When I made my first baby's room, her nursery, when I outfitted it for my baby, instead of beautiful, I don't know pink stuff around the rim of the roof of her bedroom, it was tattoos. So they're a big part of our lives. We grew up in our village, visiting our village when over 90% of the women had full body tattoos. Our bulls had tattoos, and today there are only 5 left. So young girls don't remember a time when all of the women had tattoos, and the knowledge of that is passing with each woman, and that's really scary because it's like it's there, but it's as quickly as we're grabbing, it's like sand in your hand, it's falling away.
Good afternoon, everyone. Much like the women here, I grew up with my grandmother being tattooed and my mother not being tattooed, so it wasn't passed down from my grandmother to my mother. Slightly different aspect for me. I didn't grow up with that kind of experience with having the tattoos sort of surrounding me. I kind of went on my own little journey independently from my family. I wasn't really that supported. They didn't think it was that important to do that, so I kind of took my own initiative and had to research my own grandmother's tattoos because she herself didn't know what they meant. And along my own journey, I came into touch with Julia and Sunameke, and of course everyone else involved in the Sunameke initiative. And yeah, I was able to join forces, and we all joined forces actually. And lots has come from it, actually, the revival. So for me personally, it's been about really showing my own grandmother that she is respected because she wears these marks, and helping her realise that as well.
Hi. So for me, I think growing up, painting the tattoos on our bodies when we danced in Darwin, where we grew up, for various festivals or community events, was just what we did. Mum always taught us to paint them on. So we learnt the designs, but I think as we got older, or for me, getting older, actually finding out, well, what do those designs actually mean, and having more conversations with our family, our aunties, and so now I'm still trying to understand a bit more about what those designs actually mean. And also, I think we went back in July, it was a bit of a shock and interesting to see the reactions from the younger generation. And I suppose going back now with the tattoo Julia's marked on my back and the others that we wear, and seeing, I was quite nervous, what is their reaction going to be? But I think it was generally positive, but I was also very surprised of the lack of knowledge that our younger generation had about them. Yeah.
So the history of tattooing is extremely long throughout Central Province in PNG. Can you, all of you, talk a little bit about the reason why your mothers don't have it and your boo-boos do? And I guess one of the things many of you probably aren't aware of is that this group has made a pretty amazing documentary about the process and the journey that they've been on to revive this particular practice called Tatau, which I really do encourage you to see. We will be trying to screen it later in the program, APT programs. But just to talk about, within that particular documentary, there is quite often a very full sense of loss. Can you please just, I guess, share a little bit of, that?
Sorry. I think. I should say when we started this, because we grew up in Darwin, our parents made us dance, and that's the truth. And drawing the tattoos it was just a really good way to keep the designs alive. But when we, because of the amount of exposure I've had in Polynesian cultures and seeing that they have revived their tattoo practices and their designs are on their skin, I think we started to question why. Why don't we have it for real? Why don't we wear it anymore? And the simple question is just, answer is, it's the new world came along, and so you've got missionaries, you have a new system of governance, all of those things, many reasons, and we could sit here and be horrible. That's so good, the light's on. Anyway, but yeah, it's the. But I think what this journey has showed us is it depended on where your missionaries came from. In regards to how much you lost in particular areas. And being Mekeo mix, we were fortunate to have French missionaries and not LMS. And basically one side where the tattooing culture was so prolific, I mean the whole region for us, but you could actually see that it's not practiced at all and had completely wiped out all of our designs. Which pretty much the loss is, without the tattoo designs, our women were stripped of their dignity, really. And so there's a whole generation of women that they're proud of their tattoos, but they don't want to verbalise it in a way because it's not the done thing. It's constantly balancing the new belief systems and the old belief systems. And one of the in the age of light and the time of darkness, and we were talking to that lady from Hula. You want to tell a story? Yeah, when we asked her how old she was, and we kind of came into this discovery of, which is why that'll explain it better than mine rambling. I'm going to start tattooing.
Check, sorry. And there's an old lady in Hula village, her name is Wapurenagi, which she's a widow, and she didn't know how old she was, but trying to relay the times when she got tattooed and when she tattooed women herself, she described it, and also the knowledge of tattoo, the missionaries when they came through, she called it the age of the light, describing when the London Missionary Society arrived in Hula village or in Central Province, that particular area. And prior to that, the age of darkness. So that's how she described it.
I think with us and with our mother, she wasn't marked, and I find it really interesting that between her mother being marked and her being marked, there was a change in women saying no and feeling they had the power to say no. So for my mother, when they made the first poke, and when she said when that drop of blood came up, she pulled her arm away and she jumped off the veranda and she swam away and she went she didn't come back. And then when she came back, they did it again, and again the blood beaded, and she pulled her arm away, she jumped off the veranda and she ran away and didn't come back. So that by the third time they said to her, no, and for me it's like why is it that, I'm sure there were other women that when the blood beads and they feel the pain, that they wanted to run but they didn't run, and they stayed for their entire body to be marked. But at some point between my bull and my mother, it became okay to, was it okay? I don't know. I don't know what was going on, but I find that really curious that for her she was able to run away and go and disappear and not have access to that. Pix, do you want to say?
I was going to share about, so when we first started, we discovered, we knew that we couldn't ask the question to the women in our village about how they tattooed. It just was not, the practice had stopped a long time ago. So we went to Samoa and we went on this search to see if we could observe how it was tattooed on. And we were lucky enough to observe Suluwape, who's quite respected in Samoa. But we also had those conversations, well, how was it that they were able to maintain the practice of tattooing and in other areas of Polynesia, and in our area it wasn't, that wasn't possible. And we know that from what they said that the men did, they fought back, they were burning down their houses where the tattoos were being applied, and they would keep building them up. They would burn them down. The missionaries would burn them down and then they would rebuild them. So they really did fight this battle, and for some reason at our area, where we talked to some of our aunties, they tried to keep tattooing, and one of my aunties has her shoulders done and she would wear her t-shirts to cover that, because if it was exposed she got in a lot of trouble for that, and in trouble by the men. So they believe that I guess with great intentions the missionaries thought that by stopping some of these practices it was perhaps less evil. And so things slowly changed from there, and so some of the, I'm just thinking some of the women of mum's age, you can see some women maybe there's only 5 or 6 left in our village with the full body tattoos, and then there's others around Mum's generation who just maybe have a shoulder or have a little bit on their arm.
So the practice of tattooing in the areas that you all come from is a women's practice. And we've just come out of a panel where we've been speaking about dance and also about particularly Sunameke's motto about from the old to the new old. Can you talk a little bit about the types of tattooing that you're doing now, and particularly also the marking of men within that?
Yeah. So, from old to new old, for us it's about, we've been trying to understand the meaning of the various designs. What do they mean? What were they attached to? And it's been difficult to find that information when, you know, the woman in our family passed away a long time ago. The one that we should have gone to ask is no longer here. And her daughters don't necessarily have all of that information. So, you know, we know little bits about our tattoo. And, you know, these women were artists. They created beautiful designs. Or, you know, designs were passed to them and then they adjusted appropriately and put them on other women's skin. I'm a kindergarten teacher who does finger painting with children, and you know, how do I adjust our markings? So it's something that, for me, certainly I struggle with, but am open to hear other people's understandings about that. So, for example, one example, through our collaboration and discussions together, and trying to understand what these things mean, we have a particular design that runs down the woman's face under her eye. If you were here yesterday and you saw my oldest daughter, we had her full body tattooed, and she had this marking down her eyes here, and they represent the tracks of tears that have fallen from the eyes when the women stood at the beach and waved to the men who went on the Hiri voyage. So when you stand at the beach and you wave and the teardrops flow down your face, but this Hiri voyage no longer occurs. It's not something that happens anymore. So is that design relevant anymore? And I just want to say at this point that not all of this understanding isn't something that I magically came up with. The artist that's in the group, and that is through discussions, these things have come out. But when you lie, and so for us, what do the tears represent today? So when we lie on our mat, and when we think about the old women that have passed, which way do the teardrops fall? Do they still fall down here when you're lying on your bed? Actually, perhaps they fall down here when you lie on your bed. So is it okay for us to move the teardrop from this point to this point? You know, we're working that out. We don't have all the answers. We're trying to work that out, if that's okay. And is it appropriate? When it comes to the men's tattooing, I am a mother of 3 daughters, and for me, I'm invested in this knowledge for the sake of my daughters. So it's a different experience for me because I've been really selfish about only wanting to know about the women's role in that, because I don't have a son to pass this on to anymore. Whereas my sister is the mother of 2 boys. So I'll handball that to her.
Yes. Actually, this I guess topic has come up in our family because we have cousins that have asked us, you know, for designs. They're very much interested. These are cousins the same of a mixed family. They live in Australia as well, and he is male. And currently he has some writing. I think it's either Spanish writing or something on his back, and that's was important to him for whatever reason. But now he's seeking out because he wants to be able to show, he wants to put PNG markings on his body. And for something where traditionally, yes, that was women's markings, we don't know. I mean, we know he wants to be proud to be able to wear these, but we don't know you know, which markings would he wear? Is that even okay? So these are all new issues and questions, I suppose, that are coming up. And I guess we see a lot of Polynesian designs that out there that, you know, were specifically for the men. And our designs that were for the men, we don't have much information about those. We know that they did wear them, but maybe it was just on the chest or the face. We actually don't have much record of that, so, yeah.
That past, our grandfather was born in the 1900s and he wasn't marked. So if we traditionally marked men when they are young, it was already gone for him, so it wasn't something he accessed. Nata, do you want to?
Yeah, I think personally, knowing that tattooing in Papua New Guinea, especially in Central Province, is a woman's practice, so it's women tattooing women. And we've had a lot of discussions about, you know, how we are going to progress this revival and what needs to change, or, you know, what doesn't change. And this is a topic that personally I feel good about, because I think, in my experience, our tattooing women can't exist the way it did back then, obviously. When our bubus, our grandmothers, were tattooed by their grandmothers and their aunties, it was a different world completely. And we've spoken to a lot of women, older women, in the course of our documentary, and there's been a lot of mixed responses from them regarding men being tattooed. The fact of the matter is that Papuan men are heavily tattooed. They are tattooing themselves, it's right, but they're just, it's meaningless in terms of our culture. And, you know, they are out there, they're walking around with all these marks from Polynesia, you know, and things like barbed wire and spiders on their neck, you know. And truthfully, they have these women that are in front of them, in their families, in their faces every day, with these ancient marks. So personally, I think that yes, it is important for our men, if they are going to mark themselves, then to mark themselves meaningfully, and by doing so, they are really respecting women. And in Papua New Guinean society, you know, women are marginalised, and I think this is a perfect way for them and for us with them to stand up together and actually, you know, pay respect to our women and to our bubus.
So one of the other things that's really striking about the Tip Top documentary, and any kind of following you might have of social media and everything that exists around it, is the incredible amount of research that you guys have all done, and the way that sense of revival is spreading not throughout just your own cultures but much broader. I know that Julia's just been in Fiji working on a project over there. Can you talk a little bit about that sense of connection, I guess, that has come through this project, and also of the, you know, the process of the research, which is extraordinary?
When we went to Samoa, and we were just searching to be able to observe this tattooing, how is it tapped onto the skin? And the Suluwape, the man who put our tattoos on us, Rana and I, and got one on the leg, and then Julia, Nata did, he turned and he said to us, okay, well, you have to pick up the tools now. And well, us three, we immediately went, yes, okay, and pointed to Julia. So, and I think that was a really emotional. We weren't, yeah. How that whole time, how it all came about was really emotional. But I think that was a really key point there, is turning point for us, I suppose, is that he said, you know, you can do this. That is the next step. So then, yeah, here Julia is doing what she said.
And I think in terms of the research, we were embedded in the research when we didn't know we were embedded in the research, because we were children. I'm speaking on behalf of me, and even Julia too, I think. We didn't meet Nata until we went to Samoa, which was only a few years ago, so I can't speak on her behalf. But certainly for our mother, we were embedded in that. Our parents, me and Pixie's parents, understood that they needed to prepare us for a society that would reject us, being the mixed race children of a black and white marriage. And my mum just did, she's a strong, powerful woman who loves her culture and wants it passed on to her children, and she just did it. She just passed that on to us, and the tattoos was one element of many that she passed on to us. So the research happened before we knew we were researchers. But then the curiosity comes with age. You know, you think you know everything when you're a teenager, and then you hit your late 30s and realise, crap, I don't know anything about this stuff. I need to find out about this stuff. And I don't have time to find out about this stuff because now I'm 40 and these old women are passing. And so the urgency has presented itself, but also living in Australia, we've been privileged to, well, it's not a, because we live in Australia, we've seen the loss more profoundly when we then place ourselves back in our culture and come out again. Over the years, we've noticed how great that loss is, because you're in and out, you're in and out. You know, when a pot is boiling, if you're in the pot, you don't realise as it boils, but if you move yourself out of the pot and then hop in, it's like it's really hot in here. Yeah.
I think, sorry, can I say, just in extension to what Rana's just said, the research part has been difficult because it's not just a matter of jumping on the internet and Googling Papuan tattoo. Because honestly, there's nothing. It's all with our boo-boos and it's all in our families, and those women have passed. So that was painful to be confronted with that at first. And the other thing is also researching, as in going home to Papua New Guinea and speaking to our family and finding out these things, and then knowing that what little information out there actually does belong to us, even though it's the people have come in, let's say from Europe, and have taken the research and documented it. And I think for me also realising this, hang on, this is our stuff, we own this stuff, so there's been a process of also learning that we do own it and that we can, put it out there as the way we are now within TED-Talk. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's kind of ownership, I guess, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I agree. Just talking about the travelling and the researching, and basically the researching that we've had to do obviously is stuff that because we grew up with it. But the other stuff too is talking to the old women and learning our aesthetic, like actually looking at all the different tattoos and how they place them on the body. So the placement's really important. It's more about placement and what the designs say about who you're connected to. So it's not really about meanings. This means that you are strong. That's a really Western perspective, and what the tattoos are about, like with all of our traditional bilas, was to tell people who you were. To practicality, so you don't marry your own people, or you don't kill your own people when you're going to another village warring, or whatever the words are. But I think for me the most profound thing was going to Fiji earlier, September. In September, and knowing that Melanesian, Fijian women also tattooed, but and wondering what it was, what their marks would have been, and seeing drawings and stuff that have been, recorded, and then going there and then realising, with this project, the Vengi project that Dulcie is a part of, and I gate crashed their project. But anyway, but going there and then finding these designs and realising that those designs completely and totally connect us. We are connected from Southeast Asia all the way through Tahiti, Hawaii, all the way through to New Zealand. Like, we are completely connected, and that the boundaries that have been placed upon us are not, we didn't do that. That's an outside, thing that's we cut into, like Torres Strait, Papua New Guinea. Reality, we're the same. Hello. But the designs showed that. Like, the designs actually showed we have the same aesthetic, and it was women that practiced and not men. And he's going to start singing soon. Sorry. But yeah, that was the exciting thing, is actually realising that it's connecting us, the findings, and that, it's sort of giving us a voice again. And also, there's a lot of our women were photographed. A lot of the stuff was, it's all over in Europe or wherever, and so there's a lot of gatekeepers. And basically, what I think TED Talk, what we're trying to say is, thank you for holding the knowledge, but it's time to give it back. We need to own it again. So yeah, that's our stand. I'm speaking on behalf of all four of us.
I'd just like to pick up then a little bit on that comment you just made, Julia, about it's about the way you look, and I guess to bring us back to the performance that happened yesterday, and the role of the tattoo as part of your bilas and a part of the dress, and that you are dressed when you're in the tattoo. So can you comment on that, please?
This is something I haven't necessarily been able to be a part of some of the research that's occurred in Papua New Guinea with Julia and Nata, but hearing their stories from our old women when they say things like, my tattoos belong, my reva, if I'm going to show you, I'm not recreating this very well, Nata, but if I'm going to show you this, they belong to my grass skirt. So they give us these tiny little snippets of information, and then when they give it to us, we suddenly realise this connection. It's like a puzzle piece is being placed. So I grew up in a time where my boo-boo wore a skirt because her tattoos are a sign of great beauty, and so I was used to seeing her body tattooed and not being frightened by that and not thinking she was a bikey chick. But that it was a sign of great beauty, and that, so some of the comments we've had have been really westernised comments, I guess, about, whether we are bikey chicks or whether they see us in a smoky bar drinking whiskey, or which can completely offensive. Because
with sexual objects.
Because
sorry, Ran.
I don't know what I'm saying now.
My bad.
Our designs are beautiful, and they move with our body in a particular way, and they are placed on our body around the costume or the bilas that we would wear with it. But we've kind of stumbled on this knowledge accidentally almost at times, where, Julia is tattooing a girl in our village with the full body tattoos, and it's a long process. We start tattooing when our girls are young, 5 years old, and it's a journey that you do over various stages in your life. And as Julia is marking her shoulder and her arm, she realises that this gap in the tattoo is actually a space for the armband, and not realising that until she's in the process of creating that. And so then, as these marks are being placed on the body, coming to this realisation that and I find that deeply moving and profoundly sad, because there is so much that we've lost, because there are designs that are hidden. Why are they hidden? What do they mean? Are they meant to be on that space? And hearing joking stories from other women who have taken those designs that are hidden and placed them on the face, and then being laughed at because you've put the butt design on your cheek, or the wrong cheek. So there's, I've forgotten what I'm talking about. No.
talking about the design and, with a costume, a bilas, the tattoos also for women were a way of finding a husband or a good husband. And the tattoos were related to status, apart from aesthetic beauty, of course. And there was a particular story that a lady that we met, that Julie also knows, Marcia Muir, her telling the story about her grandmother when her grandmother was fully tattooed, and they stood in a line and they were walked through their village and they were swinging their grass skirts, and as they were doing that, the grass skirts would go up and the tattoos on their legs would show. And the men would be able to see these tattoos and they'd say, oh, you know, like, she's beautiful, I want her. And then they'd sort of put their interest forward, so to speak. So yeah, that was, I mean, if you were a young woman, your parents would be proud of you to show these tattoos, these familial clan tattoos, and pull, as Julia likes to say, pull a good husband.
No, it's more like the men were like choosing. The women were pulling a good husband. Yeah, because to go through your tattoos, to endure all of that, signify that you're strong enough. If you could deal with that, then you could deal with the amount of gardening that you were going to do, and a true story, but also childbirth, and then to deal with the women in your in-laws, what they've put you through, because they've put you through hell. So if you're strong, if you present yourself, anyway, so we're pretty strong, eh? I reckon. Sorry, I'll stop butting in.
Just want to ask you about what it feels like now to dance with the tattoo when you're performing.
Cheating. We're cheating. We don't have to draw them on anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's time saving. What's this song? Actually, the experience, we went back for the South Pacific Games in PNG in July, and that was an interesting experience because we were asked by the village women to paint the tattoos on the girls that were dancing as part of that, and for me that was a very interesting process because we came and I think some of the young girls realised that because we have our books with our documented tattoos, photos of our grandma, and documented designs that we've drawn from my grandmother's body. And so we were able to draw those onto the girls who were about to dance in their costumes. And for me, that was a nice moment that we were able to share that back with this generation from our village, directly from our village. And they realised, oh, how do you know? You know, they were asking, how do you know all this? How come you have? And then it was a little bit sad because they were scared then to take the pen from us. And we had 20 girls to draw these full body tattoos on front and back right before the opening ceremony was about to go. And they were so nervous to then take the textures and try and draw these designs on themselves as well.
So just as an example in terms of time frame, it took us nearly 3 hours to paint Wiley yesterday. And we had 4 hours to do 20 women.
But we thought we would be doing it collectively together, but they were then scared to make a mistake in drawing them on their own bodies. Yeah.
And I guess we're lucky that, my children are once again embedded in the discovery of their tattoos because Auntie Julia comes to visit and she's in the lounge room tattooing. And they're sitting there and they're watching and they're making the tools and they're saying, can you poke me next? And, can you put ink on the needle this time? So you can get arrested. And they're embedded in that. And, I wake up in the morning to find my youngest, who's 7, standing at the mirror with my only good eyeliner, marking her face, doing her tattoos. And yeah.
For me, Micah, so I have the two boys, and Micah one day had disappeared in the house very quietly, found a black texture, and he drew all over his body. And I said, "What are you doing, son?" He said, "I'm doing tattoos, Mummy." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I won't tell you off, I won't for that." But he was really proud, and he too was, and that's just from observing us doing that. But for me, living in Australia, and I work as a teacher on the sunny coast, and I think there's many people who haven't left this little suburb of Biwa, and I've had lots of interesting comments, some very hurtful comments as well, but just out of, I guess, not knowing about Papua New Guinea, some of the reactions to the tattoos that I have. But for me, I feel really proud to wear them, not just when we're dancing, but just, walking through this little suburb of Biwa. And I like it because it's always it obviously starts a conversation, but I like to tell people about Melanesia and about PNG because they get so much exposure, I guess, of Polynesia and other tattoos that are very, very popular in the media. And PNG tattoos are so diverse. It's not just our area, but the designs in the Oral province, that it was also reflected in their tapa cloths. It's so diverse throughout that country. All of our designs are really, really different.
And I think to wear them when we dance, we don't have as many opportunities these days to dance, but the fact that it is certainly a privilege to be able to have them on, not just in texture, not just in body paint, but for real. It saves time, but it also it allows, it's part of, it's on my skin, nobody can take that off me. I can't wash it off. And that was scary too. That was scary to get to a point where it's on and you can't wash it off, because then it's there for people to see and criticise. Our own people judge on whether we are Papua New Guinean enough to be wearing these markings.
In the performance yesterday, the second one, there was the video that was running behind had quite a lot of historical photographs of marked women, and I was one of the things that was really powerful for me within that performance was the way that you were moving, absolutely echoing the way that a woman would be placed in front of a camera as an object for documenting a particular racial characteristic. Or can you comment a little bit about that? That might be for you, Julia.
I think when I first saw those photos, I was really angry because our women don't show the bottom part. They don't show what's the word? Hips down. They don't show that. Hips to knees. That's the important area. The top part here it's functional, and I realised then, looking at these photos of our women completely naked, front, side, back, side, this view sort of documenting the marks on their body, being completely and totally, it just pissed me off actually. And so, and then I realised that this was an outside view of our women, or objectifying, subjectifying, I don't even know the words, but sexualising us, looking at us as if we were objects. That just really made me angry. And then to say, well, actually those marks and the way you put them on is unhygienic, and there's different belief systems that were kind of put onto us. And some of it was done from the goodness of their hearts, because they really felt that, the Word of God, the hygiene stuff, it was just not understanding that there's more than one way. But in doing so, the negatives of that is that our women were stripped of everything, of all of their mana, of all of their dignity, and then you're left with this, so now we work off these photos of our naked grandmothers. We would never see them like that. You would never see the bottom part of the body, like that's just, you don't see that, that's sacred area, but but for these men to have photographed them that way, it's just so disrespectful. And then you've got to put the shoe on the other foot. Would I do that? Would I actually go into someone else's house and tell them, hey, take your clothes off, let me take front, back, side, back? No, I wouldn't. And neither this shouldn't have happened, but it did. And so now we're just, we're making the comment. We're making that comment about, enough censoring, enough, just enough. There is more than one way, and that's what Sunameke is about. From old to new old. So I'm going to keep going on and get angrier and angrier, and I got a tattoo Dulcie, and I'll be like, don't do that.
Maddie, sorry. Oh, we're going back.
Let me go now.
Can we go now?
I might open up a little bit to the audience. Are there any questions that anybody would like to ask these amazing ladies?
I'm very fascinated, thank you for your talk, by also the diversity that you talked about. And so what I don't understand, because I don't know much about this topic at all, is whether the actual design was prescribed sort of by village, or, because you said there's so much diversity, so I'm wondering if every person or every family or every village had a different design, or because you said you're working off your Bubu's design, so would you have a variety, that you apply to the children, or how does it work, that translation?
That's a good question. My understanding is that, so we can, like when we go to Papua New Guinea, you can recognise someone from the region that they come from, or the province that they come from, if they're from Oro or Manus, if they have their markings. So you can certainly recognise people by those markings common to that area, that province. But then I think, from what family have said, that it will vary family to family, but it also will vary. So our central designs in our village are similar, but also different to Hula, which is still central down, further down the coastline. But then the auntie or the bubu who would have applied that to the body of the young girl, she may put her own variation on that design onto the body as well. So yes, I think within family it can vary as well.
It's particular. The designs tell you where they come from, what village. So it's really clear. You hold the mic because I don't want to hold it. The Motuan the Gubba Gubba tattoos are particular. They're family tattoos, like for them. Hula, but then also people are from different areas. So a woman will have.
Parts would reflect different parts of your body. Reflect
Well, it's not.
relationships, or
no.
no.
No, I mean, the thing is, the tattooist chose what was put on the body, and the tattooist understood where you came from, what your family were, and there are designs that are particular to families. So, you wouldn't wear someone else's design because what would happen, you don't want to know what would happen.
But for example, your nieces would all have sort of
something along those lines.
Designs,
And one thing I learnt in our village is that our village is quite a large village, but it's broken up into three main, I only know of three main groups. So there's the Lakatoi, the canoe people, the turtle people, and the turtle net people. And so the woman's designs also relate to her clan group. And then you've got the art. So there's lots of things that have been fed into this mark. It's your clan group, it's the story of your men, it's the artist's inspiration as well.
Yeah.
We might take one more question, and then we might need to wrap up because we'll be getting ready for our performance.
You spoke about the Western research a little bit and about the need to hand that back. It's time to hand it back. Just on a practical level, what does that entail?
Can we have the images, please?
Yeah.
This is really practical stuff, like let it be accessible, rather than hold it for your own books to make your own money, you know, from our traditional knowledge, that kind of stuff. Going, journeying somewhere, taking photos of all our old women, putting it in a book and selling it. Yeah, I mean, it's great that you're documenting it, but it's just that thing of, oh, I like this, let me take it. It's that kind of, you know, just, you know, go back. I don't know how else to say that.
Just following up on that, and thank you so much. Have you had a range of responses when you've asked collecting institutions to share material?
It's knowing where to go to get it.
We found a range of information in so many vague and obscure places. Like, for example, I came across a photograph of a beautiful young woman from Julia's area, and it was in a photographic collection in Plymouth Library in the UK somewhere. And it's a matter, for me, it was a matter of trawling through sites, and you know, we can't go over there and actually go to the libraries and the museums and that kind of thing, and I mean, we can't do that. So trawling through websites and just looking for links and links and links and finding these obscure places where this information is. Another example is my relative in Papua New Guinea was asked to help someone demolish a house, and while they were there he found this box, and inside he just happened to see some postcards with some unclothed Papuan women fully tattooed, and they're original postcards. I mean, that's how random it is for us. That's how much the information is. So it's not accessible. When I first started researching at my personal story about finding information, there was absolutely nothing. I did go to the State Library the museum in Adelaide, and I did see a photograph of my own village there. But there was no information. They couldn't help me with that either. I got in touch with a particular anthropologist in the United States who was able to give me some information. But again, it was under lock and key, and it wasn't something that I could have found on my own on the internet or, you know, that kind of thing. So it's been really, really difficult, and it's a reminder for us to know that we're continually owning this stuff still, and I'm trying to help that, but sorry, this is very difficult to talk about.
We might finish here and let you enjoy the space before there's a performance beginning at 2. And thank you to you all for joining us today. And to Dulcie, who's going to leave with a beautiful new mark.
Can we see the mark?
No.